So we have created the first part of our calculator app, but now let's go actually create the rest of our design. So the first thing is I have a little blueprint right here, and this is what it should look like. So we have calculator up here, and that looks perfect. But now we need our background to be red. We need this label here. We need this text inbox and our buttons, of course. We first need to go create a class and call it calculatorscreen.py. So I'm going to create a folder, call it screens. So we're going to call it calculator screen.py. And this is just going to be the class for our calculator. So we're going to call it calculator screen. And I'm going to keep it all in camel case like this. And now this is going to take a couple of widgets as well. We first need our MDN screen. So MDN screen. And that will be imported from dependencies.modern.screen.import MDN screen like this. And now we're going to just call init to go initialize our screen like so. Now, of course, if you ran your app in the last video and it didn't work, one thing I forgot to mention, which I'll quickly mention to everyone else, is that one of the dependencies needs screen info. So if you saw that error and you got that error, install by using pip install screen info, and that should get this screen info to actually work. So now we have this right here, and I meant to actually call this calculator screen class like so, because this is the class. So once we have initialized our screen, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go create our UI. So we're going to do clock.schedule to go schedule our UI, or the creation of our UI. Otherwise, for some reason, I've tried just running it all together. It actually doesn't work because the rest of the app is being created. And the function that we're going to call is init UI. Of course, we don't have it created yet. And we're going to initialize the graphics or our UI in 1 second from now, which gives us plenty of time to go build our app. So now to import this clock module, all I have to do is go from Kivy clock import clock like this, and there we go. So now we have done that, and let's go reorganize our code real quick. So now that we have our code kind of organized a bit more, now we can continue creating the rest of our app right here. So now we're going to go create our function init UI, and all we're going to do is pass an args right here. So I'm going to create another comment, and there we go. Method and method, because these are methods, not functions. So now I have this comment right here, and this is just a little like note that I make for myself. And all this does is just gives a quick summary of what this function does right here. Now it's time for us to go create the background. So let's go start creating the background. And we're going to use, of course, our trusty tool, mdn.gridlayout. And from that dependency folder that I made. And so just go install that dependency, or import that dependency, I should say, from modern grid layout right here. Import mdn grid layout like so. And then we're going to do bg equals mdn.gridlayout. So now you can see that there are a couple of parameters or local variables that we can assign. First one is the mdn app. And I did realize that we do have to put self in this function, otherwise it won't work, and self dot here as well. And now we have no more errors. So we have self.mdn app right here. Also what we need is we need the columns or rows. So I'm going to do mdn columns equals 1 like so, because we only need 1. And now time for the main thing, which we're all excited for, is to actually just put a background color on this. We could also do the size, but the size default is 100%. So there's no point on putting a size on this. So we're going to do mdn columns equals 1, and then we're going to do mdn bg equals, and one thing to note is I did make this as a dictionary, so you can assign images, gradients, and colors. But for simplicity, we're just going to do a color, and it is going to be the color, and you can find whatever color you want, but in my case, it's going to be 255, it's just going to be red, and there. So now we have our background like so. So now that we have our background, we're just going to add our background to our app, and that couldn't be any more easy then by just typing these lines self.addWidget bg. So now that we have done that, we have created our screen class right here, and we have added our background, and it should be red. You can add whatever color you want. But now let's head over back to our main.py, and we have to go import our screen, otherwise we can't display our screen. So from screens.calculator screen import calculator screen class like usual, and now we are going to create another class from our calculator screen class, and we're going to call it calculator screen, because this is going to be the actual screen of our calculator, or from our calculator screen class. There we go. So now we have our calculator screen class right here, and we have to actually initialize a class, otherwise it won't work. So we're going to do calculator screen instance, and we're going to do calculator screen like this. And now, of course, since it is a child of the actual screen class, there are a couple parameters we actually must fill for this class right here. Most of these parameters won't matter anyways, but the one that always matters will be this app variable, because this technically essentially holds the entire thing together. And the other thing is this MDN name, calculator screen. Of course, this title could also work if you really wanted to, but it's not too much. We do have to also do one other thing, and that would be adding screens to the screen manager. So we're going to call our screen manager instance, and we're just going to add widget. The widget that we want, of course, add is this calculator screen instance, like so. So now we have done that, we have added the screen. Now we can just create another little section right here, and we're going to call it set default screen. And our default screen is going to be the calculator screen. So we're going to want the screen manager instance, and we're going to set the current to the calculator screen right here, and this name. Also, we do not want to have this main app instance anymore. Instead, we would rather have the calculator screen instance.mdn title. And there we go. So now if we run our app, we should have no errors. And you can see now we have a red screen. So that's what I'm going to leave it at for now. In the next lesson, we're going to go add these texts and widgets on our screen. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.